Oh, okay. Hello, everybody. We're here for wellb Live, and today I have Julio, a wellness consultant, who's going to talk with us about movement and energy flow, things that are really necessary for having a healthy life. And I'm just going to pass it right over to Julio to introduce himself, and then we'll get on with the discussion.
Well, hi. My name is Julio Cortes, Mind and Body 360. My work is really mostly around movement and energy, as James has said. I started off as a health coach, and then nutrition, exercise, and things like that. And then I started to find that the people that came to me, what they really needed to do is just have more energy. And they were doing a lot of the nutritional things already. So it's like, what else do they need? It's like, oh, they need to just move and exercise. Sometimes it's a four-letter word for some people. So I decided that let's figure out ways to make exercise fun. And so I call it movement, and we look at different ways coming from traditional methods and sometimes other new things that are coming out, and I help people move, basically.
Yeah. We have similar backgrounds in terms of health coaching and health counseling. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I love the health coaching approach to what health and wellness is. It's much broader. Mm-hmm. And I found, like, when I went to training there, I always considered movement exercise, or just exercise and fitness. That was more my thing. And like, getting your heart rate up and really sweating. And then I was opened up to the whole world of just doing all these other things in terms of creating flow and movement in your body. So for me, I started using the word movement more. Okay. Because for other people, right, when you're working with somebody, you could say, what forms of movement do you engage in? And sometimes that's exercise. Yeah. But when you just say exercise or fitness, people might not answer. They might not be like, oh yeah, I go for walks, or they don't feel like that's a valid response.
Yeah, they don't say it's an exercise. They say, oh, I don't do anything. And it goes, but didn't you go dancing? Oh yeah, I dance all the time. Yeah. But that's not exercise, right? Because you're not going to the gym and doing aerobicizing or something like that. But yeah, and actually, to dovetail what you're saying is that as a health coach, we're looking at moving people through certain stages in their life and helping them kind of integrate and create the things that they want. And sometimes they have to move through an emotion or through some difficulty. And so I like the word movement because it encapsulates the real work that has to be done, whether it's actual physical movement or emotional work. And so a lot of the work that I came from a background of energy healing, is one thing. So I'm sure you mentioned you've worked with Reiki people and things. So I did some of that. But what I found was that even with Reiki, a lot of people can't develop as well unless they have a movement practice, whether they do Qigong, Neigong, Tai Chi, yoga. The people who have those practices actually are more able to channel energy because, energy is like blood in the system. The more you move, the more it flows, right? Yeah. So if you're doing these practices, whether you're doing these kinds of fun things or you're just standing in a position and you're just using your mind to move, the energy starts to flow. And then when the energy flows, then you get intuitions, inspirations, and then you let go of blockages, and then life works a lot better.
Yeah. No, that's another good point, the movement factor of, it's not just, it's even the word exercise, right? So we exercise our bodies, but we do other kinds of exercises. And it's like, once again, the broader word, but movement is broader like that. Like, why are we moving our bodies?
Right.
Or in moving our bodies, we're moving other aspects of ourselves.
Right.
And that's, for a lot of people, the physical aspect is where they start. Like, that's their gateway into that process of moving forward or moving through something that might be emotional or just a life transition or a change that they're going through.
Well, and the reality is most people relate to life more as a physical exercise or a physical reality. So if we talk about, oh, well, you know, I visualize this, I actually used to do like these visualization exercises with people, and some of my clients said, well, can't visualize. I don't know how to visualize. What does that mean?
I've been there.
You know, so I was like, okay, so then let's like, you know, move this, like, you know, like this is a bird spreading its wings. Oh, okay, I can see that. And then suddenly now they're engaged, and you know, you're still engaging the mind and the body, and then it just becomes more fun. And I think that's one of the things that's missing in life for a lot of people. And I realized that, oh, I got to go to work. I got these things I got to do. I got to get my workout in. You know, and it's like, but where's your fun? You know, and so I like to bring the play element into it. So sometimes I'll just kind of change things around. I had a group of students one time, and they were getting a little too serious, and they're like, why are you so happy? And I'm like, because I'm dancing all the time. What do you mean? It's like, I wake up dancing. I was like, what do you mean? It's like, okay, here's my alarm, and it's a salsa song, you know, Azuquita para café, which is a really fun song. It's sugar for your coffee. And so like, I put it on, and I go, okay, this is how you do it. And then I start dancing around the room, and I say, okay, now we're gonna do a lot of the moves that we normally do, but you're gonna do it to music. And then suddenly, you know, like, you know, we don't do it this way because you'll all be burned out and really tired in like 5 minutes, but you can see that you can change the rhythm and the timing, and then you can also see how your body is, because if you do it one way, then you have one experience, but if you do it another way with a different intention, then you have a different experience. And teaching people how to be in their body, and just to see, oh, my body is doing something different today, so then maybe you don't need to do this workout today, maybe, or do this. Or you might use your intuition to say, I'm going to do something differently because that's not what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And that's how I connect people. I help people connect through their body to their emotions, and then sometimes through to these deeper awarenesses that we all need to get to.
Yeah, and it's funny, you said like teaching people, right? Like I've had clients where they're just like, I shouldn't be taught, I shouldn't be at a place where I need to be taught this. Shouldn't I know this already? It's like, no, we all relearn that or learn different ways moving forward, because it's a combination of both, right? Like it's keeping it fun and interesting, but having a certain level of routine at times.
Oh, yeah.
So that's like where like an exercise routine or doing a certain class can be part of your routine, but it's like not to just get caught up there, to also have the other side of things that's flexible and playful, and kind of like uncertain, like also adding that spontaneity.
Right.
So having both of those things, especially in the form of movement, keeps things interesting. And when you do it that way, you're always learning new ways to make that happen.
Oh yeah, and the important thing is, like, you know, we always talk about, you know, the successful people. How did they get there? Well, generally speaking, they're in the flow. They're feeling what's going on, and they go, okay, why did they make this choice and not that choice? It's like, well, something guided them. There's like this, almost all the really successful business people I've met, and I used to work in consulting in different countries, and I found that they all had like this intuitive sense of like, I'm doing this now and not now. And one of the ways, one of the access points is through movement, through flow, through some kind of practice that gets them into these things. I mean, and you hear about it all the time, like Sting or some of these other people, they do yoga, or some, you know, or they get up and they do their Pilates, or they do some kind of thing that's moving their body, and then it's connecting them. It's like the circuits start to fire more correctly once you're starting to move. And then you're breathing, and then the breathing helps the brain, and the brain helps, you know, the body, and then suddenly we're all kind of integrated.
Yeah, a thing that came to me when you were saying that was successful people don't have as much hesitation.
Right.
So it's very interesting, because like here you think you're doing exercise or forms of movement just for the physical component, but how you do that movement sets you up on how you just react in life, and how you make decisions, right? How you go through your day, and that stuff, it's not as necessarily deliberate, or it's not a direct effect from it. It's more like this indirect, or you know, another byproduct that comes from doing movement in that way. You find that you are in a flow, and then when a decision comes to you, you trust your intuition on making that decision, rather than mulling over it and then get caught up and see where it fits in my schedule, and then it's like you just missed the opportunity then.
Yeah, the opportunity is right now, It was funny because like when I was studying meditation many years ago, it was one of the things we would do these intense like 3-4 day workshops where there were like 10 hours a day, and then you had like 500 people and we're all like meditating and doing different things. And then one of the first things the teacher would say is like, ground the energy. You need to move. You need to. It's like it's here.
Yeah.
But it's like if you want it to permeate your life, you need to actually do something with that energy. And so I've always kind of kept that in mind. And then I'm sure you've seen this, and I see this in my students and clients often tell me, I get the best ideas like on a walk. I'm just walking around. It's like, or I'm in the shower just doing something, but they're moving. And then like, and it's the problem isn't that we don't get ideas. The problem is that we don't act on them because we don't, like you were saying, the confidence, but because it's like, oh, when no one's teaching you, it's like, oh, Joey or James, little James, you should just go with that idea that you're growing up with. It's like, wait, think before you move, right? Think before you look before you leap, kind of thing. But if you learn, it's like those extreme sports people. They are so clear in their jumping that they don't.
And they're also taking in information, just not through only their heads.
Yeah, they're not
taking it in enough. There's a discernment going on, but it's using more aspects of our brain.
But that's the thing. It's like there's this thing called parkour or free running now, right? And it's becoming more popular. People think it's like they just go and they just and they magically can jump through things and make things happen. But these guys have been training themselves to jump over obstacles or have things to the point where if you throw something in their way, they're like, okay, I can navigate through that because they have confidence in themselves and their body. But isn't that what life is anyway? We're being thrown these things at us, and then you're supposed to go, oh, wow, it's a divorce, it's a death in the family, a downturn in business, and that, so I like to remind people, it's like, we're human, and we start with the body, but there's also the stresses of life. There's the mental stress of all the stress that we're thinking about what do we have to do, but there's the emotional component of, oh my God, I'm feeling overwhelmed. And how do you deal with that? And how do you process that? That's when we say, okay, I need to go walk, I need to go breathe, I need to go move, and then I'll get back to you on that. And then suddenly, but taking that time for yourself, self-care is one of the things that, I think before we even started talking, we were thinking about what we were going to talk about, and one of the things that comes up all the time from my clients is almost all of them need to take care of themselves. And we're all taking care of other people. We're all trying to do the right thing. We're all trying to be good people, but we always forget us in the mix, as if we're like not an important part of that. Especially with parents. I'm a parent. And a lot of my clients are parents or grandparents now in some cases, but they don't take care of themselves. And I'm like, well, how do you think you're supposed to help these people if you don't? And even, and some of the, I hate to say it, but some of the people who I work with, a lot of coaches and fitness people, and one of the biggest problems again is they're not taking care of that. They're not sleeping enough because they're doing their business, or they're working really hard, or like they don't have time because they're just kind of keeping up with their people, but they don't take that time for themselves.
Yes. Well, it's easy for people in a service role or a giving role to output, and then they know to turn inward, but then it starts becoming this heady game of, oh, I should, but then you convince yourself not to, and then you're doing this other thing, and then the balance gets thrown off. So so even people that are trained and study this, and they can fall into that trap. It's another thing that came up to, I was thinking of like those maps, like a weather map, when they show that a storm is coming and how much concentrated energy, and I think that's what happens, right? We get, if somebody were to scan us and see where all that energy, it's probably all up here. Some people like hearts, or like they'll be like some here and then a lot here, and it's like, how do you get that energy dissipated throughout your whole body, so that obviously your brain and your decision making is going to be up for it as well, but you want to bring your whole body there, or like I said, receive information from your whole body, not just from a portion of your head.
And I hate to say it, but to go with your analogy, most people, they may be in their head, but most of their energy is down here, like because they're sitting all the time. They're like, and so they're stagnant.
Yeah.
You know, and so they're like, and then they're wondering like, why do I have to drink 7 cups of coffee? You know, because all your blood flow is stuck in your legs because you've been sitting in the chair for 10 hours. So it's a real simple, and then you don't even have time to get water. You know, it's kind of like, wait, you can't get water.
That should be like a sign.
That should be a sign.
Once I get to that point, it's like, okay, right now I really just have to jump up, do some jumping jacks.
Yeah, jumping. Yeah, so and I used to. I worked with someone who actually is a few blocks away from here, and she is a manager in some, and she's like sitting there doing accounting type stuff, and I'm just like, you need to like get up and leave that and go outside. And it was like a big thing for her to do that. And then suddenly she had all this energy. She was like running around, like, you know, like I would get tired doing 6,000 steps. Now I'm like 13,000 steps just running around the city and stuff. Yeah. And it was amazing. It's like, yeah. And all I started was like drink some water. Yeah. And just walk out the door.
Some simple
things.
Suggestions. You don't they probably know, but they've been convincing themselves that those things might not have such a big effect. But when you don't do it for a while, or if you're not doing it consistently, you will see an effect from doing those things. But it's getting somebody over that fence of talking themselves out of doing it and then talking themselves into.
Well, there's 2 key terms or aphorisms I like to use. You know, simple is powerful. So it doesn't have to be this complex thing that you have to do all these things to get something. The second thing is a little bit of something is better than a lot of nothing.
I know.
And most people are like, oh, well, I can't get my workout in today.
Yeah.
Say, can you do 3 jumping jacks? They're like, what are you talking about? Can you do 3 jumping jacks? Yeah, of course. I said, well, why don't you do it?
I see that a lot. And I even have that voice, and I'm like, where did that come from? Like, was that just drilled into all our brains when we were kids? Because when I was speaking with Beth, who is a fitness trainer, we were talking about like when people go away.
Yeah. And
it's just like, right? It's like, oh, I'm doing my workout here, and then you go away, and it's like, I can't do my workout. Well, you can do 10 minutes, and it's so interesting how people talk themselves out of like, that's not enough. It's still more than nothing. So what is enough? You know. So
that was always that question: what is enough? And that's why I kind of work with mind and body. Yeah. Because it's like it can't be all body. I mean, I used to do like these extreme sports and get hurt all the time. So you do have to have some intelligence in the process. You have to kind of bring your mind into it. But at the same time, if you're all mind, it's like again trying to analyze a thing, you don't move. So it's like both of them are needed. And it's like, okay, how do I reverse engineer the situation? It's like, okay, I'm going away for, to some, a conference, and they aren't going to have like a gym. So what do I do? What can I do? It's like, maybe if you have a trainer, you go to CrossFit, you talk to your guy and says, well, what things can I do in a hotel room?
Yeah, that's realistic.
Yeah, simple things that so I won't lose. Anyone can do a plank. Just like, it's like you could do plank,
I think the thing with planks is it's just so hard to make yourself do it when someone else tells you to do it, you're like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, but so a plank is probably not the thing.
No, I hear you. I'm just thinking of certain exercises, but you can do them, and they are things that take a very little amount of time that do a good deal amount of work.
I give people like I love it when people, because they're in New York, I was like, oh, I don't got time. It's like, I said, all right, I'll give you something to do in 1 minute that you might not even be able to do. But do you have a minute for me? And they're like, and then they're like, what? Give me a 1 minute push up. And they're like, what do you mean 1 minute push up? It's like, okay, all you do is you just go and you do 30 seconds down, very slow, just keep it going off, and then you hold it right there, and then you go 30 seconds up. That's only a minute.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee half the people or more who are watching this cannot do that. One exercise, just 30 seconds down and up.
Or try it.
Or just try it. Yeah, just try.
That might not be your thing. Right? It might be the whole how many jumping jacks can I do?
Yeah, it could be, but that's
just it's a minute.
It's a minute. Like that's like can you give a brother a minute? Okay, I mean, that's what I'm saying. And so for me, that's the issue. It's like it's not a question of time, because we all have time to pay our bills, right? We all have time to take a shower, hopefully, right? You know, but like we don't have time to move somehow. Yeah. And that's the thing, you know, and that's what, but I think once you get started on one thing, then we can, like, and that's why I like the idea of movement and flow, because it's like you start with this, then we go, oh, and then, well, you're already doing this. It's like, well, I need some water now. Okay, so you drink some water. It's like, oh, good. So now you can have some more greens, right? You know, and then it's like, oh, yeah, that really works for me. And it's like, oh, yeah, what else can I do? Because you're starting to feel good, you have more energy, and everything starts to flow. Yeah,
So along the lines of that 1 minute stuff, like what's another common thing? Because I always like to share like at least a few tips with people, because sometimes they're not ready to full on work with somebody one-on-one. So it's like this a bridging experience. So like what's another common thing that you could share with people that they could do? Like you were saying, like with the 1 minute push-up.
Yeah, that's sort of those guys who give me, you know, this story. I'm like, so the thing that I would say that is, it's all about breathing, and people don't really get that part. So there's so many ways we can, you know, because just your breath can control or manage your emotions or even your thought process. Yeah. So because it's a simple thing, it's like just breathe in and out really fast. You're gonna get really anxious, right? And then if you breathe really slow and deep, you're gonna get chill, right? So just doing that simple thing can help you that. And then there are different breath exercises that can be done. I mean, they don't take a long time, you know. Even on the way into something, and I'm gonna have a meeting, I'll just sit in and I'll just breathe in for a couple of breaths, hold for a couple of breaths, breathe out for a couple of breaths, hold for a couple of breaths, and then do that. And then just, you know, and then if you want to add visualizations, but like simple things that you can, these are called internal exercises because no one can see you actually doing anything, but they make a huge difference in your mind, your body, and it doesn't take a lot of training. I mean, you know, all it takes is counting, which we all can do, and then in holding your breath or not, you know, but or even just be noticing, because if you can notice your breath and you say, okay, I counted up to 5, and then you go, okay, well, the next breath, let's see if I can count up to 6 and make it a little longer, and then make it a game for yourself. So I mean, that's where it gets interesting. So like breath is another thing. Now, some people are and going with that is posture, because if I'm like this, it's really hard for me to breathe in.
I know. So you do that before you even said the word, and I was just like, I looked at you, I was like, oh, Julio, you look so different.
Exactly, but then you start to do this, and see, but that's the other thing you were talking about, confidence too. Like there are little things they even talk about in sales classes and things like that, where, you know, stand up tall, because people notice you, and you have and you naturally have more confidence. And they even have these power positions, just standing like this, or standing like this, power posing. And so there's so many things that so it's a real simple thing. Just stand up, you know, don't have to do military shoulder back, but you know, just don't have slouches. And
it may come to that.
It
like,
could.
It's once again, it's like, well, even with the breathing, right? People don't necessarily see just breathing as movement. When you're breathing, and especially when we were talking about like a lot of the energy in the head and then the stagnant energy from sitting, when you're breathing, that's moving all this in between those two areas. And then it could start with that, you know, it starts there, and then, because like the person that's slouching, it's almost like they can't just go into power pose sometimes, because the other things aren't matching up. So maybe they need to do a little bit of that.
There may be, and then you may just kind of like, you know, say, okay, so we're just gonna do this weird exercise with the arms, just like you're lifting up like a bird spreading its wings, right? And then what are you doing? You're actually opening up your chest and lifting up your shoulders, and then you do this. Oh, this feels really good, right? No, not really. So then you just do this a couple of times, and then you're suddenly compressing and expanding the chest, which helps with the breathing. But again, it's movement, right? So you can do it if, you know, people a lot of times are worried about looking bad, and that's the other piece that we have to look at.
In an office space.
In the office
setting. I'm the bird guy now. No, but
exactly.
No, but that's another thing too. With those smaller suggestions, you can change them, or you can have like your little toolbox of like 4 or 5 that you really like, and designate them to certain areas.
Right.
But once again, it's just like it's learning those basic things to just kind of shake up the energy.
For sure, and the thing is, like, you know, I've always loved working with people, but I can always, you know, recommend some YouTubes, or you can even look it up. You know, there's like a million people sharing their stuff and saying, oh, do this, do this, do this, and then you can find out, oh, that doesn't work for me, and then you just spent a minute looking at something, but or not even that, because you don't like the person, you go to the next person, and eventually you'll find something that works.
Yeah.
If you want to.
But you got to try it too.
Yeah,
like, I'm picturing the people at home that are like watching the workout video. It's like, that's it. It's like, all right, you got to do a little bit of it.
Yeah. It's kind of like, they're not, you know, I'm going to, like, you know, what is it? Just give them the exercise, you know. I'm outsourcing my exercise. He's doing it for me. No,
but it is great that we are living in times where the variety and the options are much more accessible. Mm-hmm. There's much more to choose. And for some people that's overwhelming. But then once you start narrowing it down, it is great, because then you have something to select from, and there's less excuses as to not do it. You say, all right, I'm not in the mood to do that one, but then I have this one. I have no excuse to not do this one.
Well, this is where we got to come back to the mind part, because that part is the mental part. It's like, how much is enough? How much is too much? And, you know, we have this story in our head, well, I'm not doing enough. You know, or that's just not going to work for me. You know, like, well, have you tried it? You know, like, how do you know? Like, those kinds of things we have to kind of process within ourselves. Or,
yes,
you know,
and ask the question, what is enough?
What is enough? And maybe even have a conversation with yourself. Okay, you know, and I was a perfectionist, you know, and I actually went, no, I'm a recovering perfectionist, and I actually went to a procrastinators workshop in college, and one of the things that they taught me is, like, good enough.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes you just have to say good enough. It's like the form isn't right, you know, it's like you may not be doing it as well as you would like. You can't, you know, sometimes, you know, in my old training, they would have us stand in a position for like an hour or something, and you're like, I can't do this anymore, and you feel like you're punking out. But at the same time, you're like, this is all I can do right now. Or, you know, if you're CrossFit, right? You're like, you work to fail, right? You know, at a certain point.
Yeah.
That's good. It's like, you're like, I missed a number. I wanted to get there. But then you're like, okay, but that's where I'm at today.
Yeah.
And then you got to
Well, that's where it balances out to process, being focused on process and outcome, like having a healthy relationship with that. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of the mind. And discussing that with somebody, saying, okay, you know, I noticed that even though I'm doing these movements and exercises and routines, I'm still having some negative self-talk, or I'm not reaching the outcomes. And then that's when you can say, well, are you doing what you enjoy? Are you having fun doing it? And then when you start answering, and you're like, you know what, I am. Yeah. It's all right. It's a win, and then the other win, the outcome win, you'll get to. Maybe there's something you need to tweak in your lifestyle or in the particular regimen you're doing at that time. But there's definitely the feedback loop of going between thinking about it, feeling what's right, doing it, and then keep going back through.
Well, I once I was taking a class, and it wasn't even the teacher, it was somebody in the class that said this. It was like 20 something years ago, but it's stuck in my brain. It goes, anything worth doing is worth doing badly at first. And that's something that I think is very, I'll own that, because you know what? Like,
especially with fitness.
Especially with fitness, or, you know, I teach movement arts, right? So, like, you know, everyone's like, oh, you look so beautiful doing this. I could never do that. Oh my God, I feel ridiculous next to you. And I'm like, trust me, when I'm next to my teachers, I feel the same way, you know? And they're like, how could you feel that way? He goes, whatever you think my level is, they're like way, way up there, and I feel like I'll never get there. So it's like there's always that stage, but then at a certain point, it's like, well, you know, I'm actually pretty good. So why? Because I was willing to look bad.
Yeah.
And I was willing to fail and not feel comfortable. And I think if we get too comfortable, that's also a problem.
Yeah, or there's different ways to define comfort. You know, like I'm laughing a lot because I was just doing rope climbing yesterday, and I can't do that yet. But I attempted to do it, and I did some aspect of it, and it was still a workout per se. But did I climb like a monkey? No, not yet. But I think the bigger goal or the bigger takeaway was that, like you said, I tried it, and I saw like the level of like truly not being good at something, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, because then when you do the next exercise that you are really good at, then you see true perspective relative to those
right.
things. And I think people need to see that, right? Get that physical feedback rather than what their brain, like whatever they're comparing it to, like this more perfectionist, idealistic.
Well, yeah, and then recovering gymnasts, it's like these guys with the perfect toes and the flying, and you're like, oh wow, and then you have that mindset everywhere you go, and then you see fault like it has to be fun, So I always bring it back to, even like the boxers, or whatever, the athletes. They're not all doing everything perfectly, but they're doing what they're doing that it works for them perfectly, And so some people, their stride is different. Some people, they're faster. Some people are stronger. So just focus on that part, and that's the part that makes things more interesting. It's like, that's what makes you essentially you anyway. So why don't you just accentuate that, And then the other stuff, let it go. Like, who needs to be perfect in every way anyway?
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think I'm not sure exactly what time it is, but I think we can start closing it up. So what's another takeaway that you feel people can kind of own, or something across the board that's common for people to like kind of for them to internalize and process about getting them to move more?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just feeling comfortable in the body. Like, that's the first thing. And so when I talk about that, is like we tend to make these decisions like, okay, what should I do? What's the right thing to do? I like this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so I like to get people like, what does this feel like? And in Taoist practices, or Chinese medicine practices, they talk about the 3 hearts. So there's this heart, and then there's this heart. Mm-hmm. And so maybe check in. Well, what does my belly want to tell me? What does my heart want to tell me? What does my mind? And when you actually do that exercise, like, like, well, what do I feel like eating? And then you start looking at the different things, you start realizing, I'm not integrated. Like, I have completely different ideas and feelings. And that would be your first thing. It's like, okay, how do I integrate? Or what, maybe you need to do this part more first, because that's what's really calling you. Or maybe, you might want to try this one because you haven't, done something that your gut has been telling you. So, So I think really, it's really starting where you're at, finding what the next step is. But it's just asking yourself, because often we're always being told, or we're following somebody else's lead. So I think for me, it's like, and since I'm a mind-body person, it's like, use the mind and the body together to make decisions. So don't just go, I should do this because this is the right thing, or because someone told me. It's like, okay, the teacher or whatever, the coaches or these wonderful people are telling me something. How do I feel about it? Mm-hmm. And then go, what can I do that's close to that, but that feels right to me? So I adapt. So I think it's like, take in information, process it within, and then make some kind of forward motion and action, but based on your internal, because that's not what most people are doing. And if you do that, you're actually going to lead yourself in a really interesting direction that's going to give you the best benefits.
Yeah, the word that was coming to me when you were saying that is assimilation, right?
Yeah,
you're saying like process, because we live in a world where there's so much information, and that we're taking a lot of that in, or we have to, learn how to funnel that, and say, all right, this is the information that's helpful, and then as you're processing, but like a lot of times that information is to go and do it. Mm-hmm. So it's like you're jumping from the step of taking in the information to doing it, and then it doesn't work out, or you're like, that's it, more, because you never really processed it. You never assimilated that person's way of saying it to how you would actually live it in your life, and then get into the gut intuitive side of saying, how is that going to play out for me?
Right.
So engaging in that
and
process.
I think, and added to that, which I didn't mention, but because I of course thought it's obvious, is we got to slow down. Because if you're like you're rushing through anything, you're not going to take the time to actually do this exercise, and then and it may not come off as something like immediate. So you may actually need to slow down enough to hear that small, silent little voice inside of us that we have that tells us that. So that's also a kind of assimilation, digestion process. But but you have to take it slow enough to be able to do that. And that's one thing that I think we could all do.
Excellent. Well, that's a great note to end on. So yes, everybody slow down, and slowing down in this day and age is only 20 seconds.
Yeah,
we're all so fast. So, but yes, so I appreciate so much this discussion. I think you and I could talk about this for hours more. Yes. But this is a great start in terms of understanding this broader scope of what movement is, especially in today's busy world. And if you're living, have a lot of things going on in life, then maybe doing smaller bits of movement throughout a day is better than setting aside an hour for a class or something.
Yeah.
So play around with it.
That's what
we'll be posting Julio's information. So if you want to connect with him, you can, and you can also visit his website, mindandbody360.com. So thank you so much, Julio, for sharing your perspective with us, and I really enjoyed it, and hopefully everyone else enjoyed it as well. So any future questions, you can contact me or Julio, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks.